Closure of a government-subsidized youth hostel in Causeway Bay leaves over 100 tenants scrambling for housing. U.S., Ukraine, and Russia are set for the first trilateral peace talks in Abu Dhabi. And TikTok seals a deal for its new joint venture to avoid U.S. ban over national security concerns. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Jeremy Zhu. More than 100 young tenants in Causeway Bay will need to move out following the sudden closure of the city's first youth hostel converted from a hotel. The government-subsidized project is ending after the landlord decided not to renew the lease.
This
tenant was informed that she must leave by the end of February, cutting her 2-year lease short by 9 months. She said the sudden notice, which spans the Lunar New Year period, gives little time for over 100 residents to find new homes. Tenants were later offered a full rent waiver for February if they agree to vacate by the deadline. While acknowledging the lease allows for 1 month's notice, she feels the situation is unfair to those who relied on the hostel for stable housing. The operator has provided referrals to other youth hostels, but according to the tenant, they're in less convenient locations. Renting a comparable private flat in the urban areas would cost at least double the current rent, leaving her unsure of where to go. The youth hostel on Morrison Hill Road opened in 2023. It was converted from the Hotel East in Causeway Bay and operated by the Hong Kong United Youth Association, offering 194 units with monthly rent varying from $7,000 to $9,000. The association says its lease with the landlord expires at the end of next month. After being informed the lease would not be renewed, it immediately notified tenants and within a week had helped refer nearly half the residents to apply for other youth hostels. In response to inquiries, the Home and Youth Affairs Bureau, who funded the youth hostel scheme, said the operator will complete the 3-year project as agreed and will assist tenants in applying for or moving to other accommodation. Other youth hostel operators have also been asked to expedite applications.
In a press conference, the landlord Causeway Group and the operator of Be Living Youth Hub agreed to postpone the date of move-out to the end of March in light of the difficulties tenants face in house hunting.
The Hong Kong United Youth Association earlier said it had expressed its wish to renew the lease last August and was notified by the end of last year that renewal would not be granted. It added that both sides had agreed the association would advance part of the repair costs to be offset against the rent, clarifying that there were no rent arrears. Causeway Group Executive Director Jonathan Tong said they did not want to evade responsibility, adding they are open to the options of the future use of the property. Considering the relocation close to the Lunar New Year, the group agreed to postpone the move-out date by 1 month. Under the Home and Youth Affairs Bureau's youth hostel scheme, the government provides subsidies to non-governmental organizations on a reimbursement basis to rent hotels for use at youth hostels, carry out minor improvements and furnishing. The average amount of monthly subsidy is about $5,500 per room.
The subversion trial against the now disbanded Hong Kong Alliance and its former leaders entered its second day, with the court hearing activist Tony Chow's bid to call an expert witness. The prosecution opposed the application on the grounds of insufficient objectivity and neutrality. The court will make a decision next Monday. Evelyn Bai reports.
Chow was escorted by a prison van to West Kowloon Court. On the second day of the high-profile trial, Chow applied to call expert witness Ho Min Shou, a sociology professor at National Taiwan University, whose expert evidence discusses the definitions of democracy and one-party dictatorship. Chow said these terms appear in the alliance's operational goals, and the expert evidence would help the court understand the meaning and context in determining whether the goals contravene the country's fundamental system. Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Ned Lai opposed the application, arguing the evidence was irrelevant to the issues in the case, outside the experts' area of expertise and neither objective nor neutral. In her submissions, Chow stressed that these terms carry public meanings and that Ho could assist the court in understanding how the public interprets the goals and whether they are unlawful. Judge Alex Lee questioned whether it was appropriate for an expert to explain the slogan "Bring the one-party rule to an end," suggesting the alliance itself would be best placed to explain its meaning. Other alliance members, Albert Ho and Lee Chek-yan, did not attend today's trial. Albert Ho pleaded guilty on Thursday to inciting subversion by promoting an end to one-party dictatorship. As for the defendants who pleaded not guilty, Chow, Lee, and the Hong Kong Alliance, the court will continue the case next Monday. Effing by Cable News.
Police said a 73-year-old woman was arrested on suspicion of murdering her 77-year-old husband during a joint suicide attempt on Thursday at a hotel in Tsim Sha Tsui. Evelyn Bai has more.
Officers returned to the crime scene on Thursday night to continue investigating at the Ramada Hong Kong Grand on Austin Avenue. Earlier that afternoon, police were called after hotel staff noticed a couple had not checked out and then found them lying in the room. Emergency services rushed the pair to Queen Elizabeth Hospital. The man was unconscious with suspected stab wounds to his neck and hand, pronounced dead shortly afterwards. A 73-year-old woman was being treated in an intensive care unit and was subsequently arrested on suspicion of murder. Officers suspect she killed her husband after the pair took pills in a joint suicide attempt. There were no records of domestic violence or mental illness for either person, and no signs of struggle at the scene. The couple had rented a hotel room since July last year. Officers seized sleeping pills, a 23-centimeter blood-stained fruit knife, a table knife, and 2 suicide notes believed to have been written separately by the couple. Police said the notes suggested they could no longer endure their long-term illnesses, leading to their decision to end their lives. A post-mortem examination will be conducted to determine the cause of death as investigations continue. Evelyn Bai, Cable News.
Direct historical talks between the United States, Ukraine, and Russia are set to open in Abu Dhabi today, marking their first trilateral meeting since Moscow's full-scale invasion 4 years ago. The high-stakes diplomatic push follows a night of separate top-level meetings, but immediately confronts a towering territorial issue. Quentin Yang tells us more.
While the nation's leaders are absent, senior security delegations from Russia and Ukraine will join U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner to discuss a U.S.-led framework, though no early breakthrough is anticipated on the first day of the two-day summit in the United Arab Emirates. This unprecedented gathering follows a whirlwind 24 hours of shuttle diplomacy. On Thursday, U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos. Both leaders described their talks as good, with Zelensky announcing they had finalized the terms of post-war U.S. security guarantees for Ukraine, awaiting only a final signing. Hours later, Witkoff and Kushner arrived in Moscow for a late-night, 3-hour discussion with Russian President Vladimir Putin. A Kremlin aide called it exceptionally substantive, constructive, and it directly paved the way for the Abu Dhabi meeting. Witkoff had earlier stated negotiations were down to one issue, which European officials confirmed was the question of territory. The core dispute remains the status of occupied eastern Ukraine. Russia currently controls about 20% of Ukraine's internationally recognized territory and demands Kyiv cede these lands. Zelensky has identified the future of the Donbas as the key issue for the talks and refuses to surrender the territory. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
United States President Donald Trump announced a breakthrough deal with NATO granting the U.S. total and permanent access to Greenland, a claim immediately rejected by European allies who called the island's sovereignty an absolute red line. Quentin Yang again reports.
In a Thursday interview, Trump said Washington and NATO had agreed on a framework for limitless military and strategic access to the Arctic territory.
It's really being negotiated now, the details of it, but essentially it's total access. There's no end, there's no time limit.
He suggested the U.S. could install unlimited equipment, such as the Golden Dome missile defense system, without payment, calling Greenland invaluable for intercepting hostile missiles over the Arctic. Although the alleged agreement represents a shift from Trump's earlier threats to buy or seize Greenland by force, the response locally was cautious. Greenland's prime minister said he was unaware of any deal, but remained open to cooperation talks, just not on sovereignty.
We are ready to discuss a lot of things, and we are ready to negotiate a better partnership and so on, but sovereignty is a red line.
Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen stressed that territorial integrity cannot be discussed. Analysts suggest that the U.S.-NATO talks likely centered on updating a 1951 U.S.-Denmark Defense Pact, which already allows for a significant American military presence at a U.S. base on the island. The U.S. goal is reportedly to lock in this access permanently, even if Greenland eventually gains independence. In response, NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte said the alliance would strengthen Arctic security, hoping for concrete plans by early 2026. Quintin Yang, Cable News.
Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi dissolved the House of Representatives today for a snap general election on February 8th.
Takaichi's cabinet approved the plan to dissolve the 465-seat chamber this morning. It marked the first dissolution at the start of a regular session in 60 years. Lower House Speaker Nukaga Fukushiro later announced the dissolution, paving the way for a 12-day campaign that officially starts Tuesday. The move is an attempt to capitalize on Takaichi's popularity to help the governing party regain ground after major losses in recent years, but will delay a vote on a budget that aims at boosting a struggling economy and addressing soaring prices. The election will also see candidates running for a new opposition bloc, the centrist Reform Alliance launched by the Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, and the Komeito Party, the LDP's former coalition partner for 26 years.
TikTok's U.S. operations have now been formally separated from its parent company, ByteDance. The platform will be run by a newly formed joint venture, with ByteDance remaining the largest single shareholder.
The social media giant says the move is in response to an executive order signed by U.S. President Donald Trump in May last year, which demanded the app sever ties with its Chinese parent to protect national security. The new joint venture includes Oracle, Silver Lake, and Abu Dhabi's MGX as shareholders, each holding 15%. ByteDance's stake has been lowered to 19.9%, but it continues as the biggest individual shareholder. The new company's board will consist of 7 members, including TikTok CEO Shou Zi-Chew. The current head of security will take up the role of chief executive in the new entity, tasked with safeguarding U.S. user data, the app's algorithms, and its overall security, while also driving growth for TikTok's platform and website across the United States. TikTok says the joint venture will ensure continued service for more than 200 million American users and 7.5 million businesses. Meanwhile, Trump said in a social media post that he is so happy to have helped in saving TikTok and thanked President Xi Jinping for approving the deal.
Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day up 119 points. Top active stocks of the day. Alibaba was up $3.70. Tencent was down $2.50. Xiaomi was up $1, and Meituan was up 55 cents. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar, Euro 9.15, the Australian dollar 5.34. Onto the weather now. Mainly cloudy. The minimum temperature will be about 14 degrees in the urban areas tomorrow morning, and a few degrees lower in the New Territories, where it will be cold in some areas. dry with sunny periods during the day. The maximum temperature will be around 19 degrees. Windier on Sunday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our news tonight. I'm Jeremy Chu. Thanks for watching and good night.